Hey guys, LJ here. Just got done reading H.P. Lovecraft's The Hound. So yes, this is yet another short story review, and you may be wondering, LJ, why must you do a short story review? Well, it's quite frankly because, and this may be also the case if I decide to review some of Edgar Allan Poe's works in the future, but it's quite frankly because H.P. Lovecraft, his main mode of writing is short stories. That's what he writes. I mean, yes, I suppose some of H.P. Lovecraft's works could be maybe considered novellas, but they're few and far between. They are rare. Most of what he writes are short stories, so that is the reason. And for Edgar Allan Poe, he either writes poems or short stories, though I do think he did write a work that could be considered a novella. It's called, like, The Narrative of A. Gordon Pym of Nantucket or something like that. And I guess I could review, say, 3 of H.P. Lovecraft's short stories in one video, but pretty much I just prefer, if I can, to dedicate each one of my reviews to one work in particular and get into the details on that one work. So, anyway, I read The Hound, a short story written by H.P. Lovecraft. It was published in 1922 and it is only 8 pages in length. The story follows the narrator and his friend St. John, and they like to rob graves? So they're grave robbers. Interesting. Perhaps even more weird is the fact that they take home items that they find in the graves and keep them as sort of like mementos. And they have this collection of all the items they've brought home from the graves in the past. It's sort of like this museum in their basement. The duo eventually travels to this graveyard in Holland, which supposedly holds the body of one who used to be a former grave robber as well. And the one bad sign is, as soon as they get to this graveyard, they hear what sounds like a dog or a hound barking and making noises in the distance. They eventually find the body of the person they're looking for. The skeleton looks kind of eerily preserved, and they notice an amulet hanging around the skeleton's neck. They have a strong desire to take it, so they do. As soon as they take this amulet, though, strange things start to happen around their house. For instance, they start to hear this faint scratching at their chamber door, and they hear this distant barking. They also find some very weird tracks out around their house. The narrator's friend, St. John, is attacked and killed by the creature who you assumed has been also making this weird howling noise. The creature that's been plaguing them for all this time. And it just so happens that the amulet is stolen from the narrator, and then the narrator wants to go back to the graveyard and unearth the coffin with that former grave robber again. The H.P. Lovecraft ending, definitely superb as always. It makes you sort of just sit there for a couple seconds in awe and let your brain process what just happened. Definitely a very, very creepy, satisfying tale, which actually so happens to draw some parallels with his other short story titled Dagon. I actually did a review on Dagon, so if you haven't seen it, check it out. But anyways, the reason I say The Hound is somewhat like Dagon is because, just like Dagon, once you hit the end of the story, you realize the story is actually, in fact, a suicide note of the narrator. It's also the case here. Hey, I'm just saying it says something about a revolver. You can make your own assumptions. And the whole idea of digging up graves in some ancient cemetery, that also kind of reminded me of H.P. Lovecraft's story, The Statement of Randolph Carter. When you read it, and I mean, you'll only understand what I'm about to say if you actually read it, but when you read it, actually has sort of the feel of an Edgar Allan Poe short story. And I mean, it seems like there's actual lines from Edgar Allan Poe in the H.P. Lovecraft short story. One moment in particular that stands out in my mind is when this mysterious creature is after the narrator. It says something about a knock on his chamber door, kind of like The Raven, by Edgar Allan Poe. So The Hound by H.P. Lovecraft, I suggest you really should read it. I would have to go to 5 out of 5. And just forewarning you, there is a lot of detail in the writing in this story, a lot of Old English sounding adjectives. Heck, sometimes I honestly will admit I had no idea what H.P. Lovecraft was saying exactly, but heck, it adds to the Gothic feel of the story. So that's all. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and see ya!